and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Carla and I am a makeup enthusiast. Love to create looks and have fun with the makeup that I already have. I do videos like project pan, shop my stash, multiple looks with one palette. Those are videos that I will put out every single month. But my content is definitely more about getting creative with what you already have and help you save money instead of buying every new launch that is there. So if that is something that you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you like this kind of videos where I show you what palettes I think are perfect for spring, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, let's begin with this video. As you already read in the title, we're going to be looking at 15 eyeshadow palettes that I think are perfect for spring. Now, just so you know, this is my opinion, and if you have any other eyeshadow palettes, or if you consider that some of these eyeshadow palettes should not be spring palettes, that's okay. This is just, like I said, my own opinion, and we all can have different opinions, that's fine. Just so you know, these eyeshadow palettes are in no particular order, and yeah, that's about it. Let's go ahead and get started with the eyeshadow palette that I have on my eyes today, and that is the Flora Story palette from Oden's Eye and Amanda from Makeup Just for Fun. This eyeshadow palette, guys, just look at this color story. It is such a beautiful color story. I think, whenever I look at this palette, I absolutely think of spring. I think it has those very beautiful green tones, which are colors that you start seeing more often because all of the trees start blooming and all of that stuff. And those purples are just absolutely beautiful. I think that the combination of green and purple is just absolutely amazing. But I think that this is such a perfect palette for spring because it has just so many beautiful tones that you can create a very bright look if you want to, or you can create a more toned down look with the shroom shade and those green tones that are like, you can make them as bright or as light as you want to, basically. And if you want something more bright and punchy, we'll definitely use that orchid and that lush shade. Just absolutely pretty. Now here I have another palette that I think came out 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, to be honest. It might have been last year, it might have been 2 years ago, I don't know, but this one is from Colourpop, and I am talking about the Limoncello palette. This palette, guys, whenever it came out, it was like, everybody was raving about this palette because of the color story, and honestly, I think that this one is really good for those who really like their neutral colors but are also into maybe some pops of color, because you get those yellows, that green, and that blue. But everything else is pretty much neutral. So it's just an absolutely pretty palette, easy to use for those who are not so much into colorful eyeshadows. Yeah, guys, excuse my hair. My hair is just such a hot mess today. Just, yeah. But like I said, a very beautiful palette. If you have it, I think spring and summer, it's a perfect time to pull this baby out. Another newer palette that I have is the Natasha Love Face palette. I personally think that this pink shades over here are just absolutely perfect for spring. I still think that the timeline on whenever she released this was very weird and odd, but I mean, it still works, okay? I do think that this palette works perfectly for spring because you get those pink tones that just remind me of flowers like roses and stuff. And you also get here some more neutral shades and that purple if you want to intensify things or whatever, you know? But yes, guys, I do think it's a nice, beautiful palette for spring. If you have it, if you purchased this, definitely use it. But if you didn't, it's fine. I feel like everybody has pinks in their collection unless you don't like pinks on your eyeshadows. But other than that, I'm pretty sure that you have something similar to this. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, what I'm trying to say is, if you have it, I think that this palette is perfect for spring. And if you don't have it, that's fine. You don't need to go run to buy it unless you want to. But if you don't, I'm pretty sure that you can find these colors in your collection. Alright guys, next palette. It's a palette that came out last year. I believe it is still in stock. And this is an indie brand. This is Menagerie Cosmetics. And I am talking about the Sugar High Artistry palette. Guys, this palette is, in my opinion, of course, absolutely gorgeous. One of my favorite looks of all times came from this palette. Like, I am just obsessed with this palette. It's just so beautiful. Anyway, I'm gonna stop being weird about it. But guys, like I said, they still, I do believe that they still have this palette in stock. I think it's perfect. It has some pastel tones over here with this pink, this shimmer pink, and these two colors over here. But you also get some brighter shades in case you want to create something more colorful. I don't know, guys. Whenever I think of spring, I think of everything that is coming back to life. So to me, it's like a lot of colors, all the flowers, all the plants, all just everything blooming. Tulips, like just fields of tulips. So yes, this palette reminds me of tulips. So yes, guys, this is again another eyeshadow palette that I think is perfect for spring. If you have it, you can pull it out, and if you don't have it, that is fine. But I think that you should go get it because this one is absolutely stunning. I'm joking, but I do love this eyeshadow palette. I think it's amazing. So another good one for spring, like I said, not a new one. So if you have it, if you purchase this, give it a try again. Pull it out of your drawers, and you know, let me know if you would like some more info on this. Another oldie but goodie for spring. I am talking about the new Nude from Huda Beauty. This palette is just, you know, this is spring. Well, this is spring and Valentine's Day, but I think that it can be a very good palette for spring with all of these light tones. Like this 9 shades over here, to me they are like very springy, very light colors with the peaches, the purples, the pinkies. It's just, yeah, I think it's perfect for spring. If you have it, you know, I think right now it's a good time to use it and mix some of those peaches with purples. I think that those two tones just look absolutely beautiful. But anyway, I think I'm being awkward right now. I don't know why I feel like I'm being awkward right now. I'm sorry if I am, guys. It's been a while and I just have so much in my head. Maybe this just made it awkward. I don't know. I'm sorry. But anyway, new Nude from Huda Beauty. Let's continue with this video, shall we? Alright guys, another eyeshadow palette that I cannot pass for spring since it came out last year. It was definitely one of my most used eyeshadow palettes of the year, and I am talking about the Natasha Denona Pastel palette. Like, just look at this. It is absolutely beautiful. Like, the package on this palette is just amazing, and then you open it and this color story, like, I don't know. What doesn't say more spring than this palette? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is spring right here. That's it. So if you have this eyeshadow palette, guys, definitely pull it out, play with it. It's just, I don't know, I absolutely love and adore this palette. I think I don't get enough use out of this as I should, but I don't know, I just am in love with this eyeshadow palette since it came out last year. Alright guys, here I have a very, very affordable eyeshadow palette. This one is from E.L.F. and it is the Mint Melt eyeshadow palette. I think that these mint tones are just perfect for spring. I absolutely like to use this one in my inner corners, like something very neutral on the outside, and just a mix of this two in my inner corners for that, you know, pop of color. So whenever I think of spring, this is one of the palettes that I'm always reaching out for whenever I just want something neutral but with a little bit of, you know, a pop of color. This is absolutely stunning, and it's only like $4 or something like that. So yes guys, this is super cheap, super pretty, super worth it. Let's talk about the next eyeshadow palette. This one is from Colourpop, and it is from their, I believe, their permanent collection. I might be wrong though. I don't know. I'll check that later. But I'm talking about the Coast to Coral palette. I think that this palette is, oops, it fell. You have some like peaches over here, then you get your corals, some golden tones. It is absolutely pretty, and I think that it is neutral enough for those who are not so much into color but still want something that looks, you know, more than just your typical brown. So, and this one works so well for like a one eyeshadow and down type of thing. If you apply the Angelus shade all over your lid, you're good to go. So yes guys, this one, I think it's absolutely pretty. Again, I don't know if this is part of their permanent collection. If it is, I'm gonna link it in the description box down below. If it's not, I'm still gonna put this in there and tell you that it's not available anymore or something. Let's talk about another new eyeshadow palette. This one is from Oden's Eye, and it is from their newest collection, and I am talking about the Sea Talk palette. I also purchased this one The only one that I didn't purchase was the one from Betty Jean, and the only reason why I did that because I do want to purchase it, but I'm probably just gonna wait till April to buy it. But anyway, if you don't know me, if you haven't watched my channel before, I am in a low buy, so I am only allowing myself to buy one eyeshadow palette a month. And by the time I purchased this, I had purchased 3 during the year already. So technically, right now during the month of March, I'm barely like catching up with being at my one eyeshadow palette a month. Anyway, the point is, I could not buy it yet, but I might purchase it in April if nothing better comes out. Anyway, let's talk about this palette, guys. I think that this one is also perfect for spring for those of you who like a little bit more neutral tones or are more into blues. I personally am not a person that likes blues, if I'm being honest, but whenever I looked at this blues, I don't know, something really attracted me to this, and I think that is because this one is kind of like darker, and I don't know, the undertone of it just appeals to me more than a cool tone blue. And this one, guys, the Electric Kelp, oh my goodness, it's just absolutely beautiful. I have not used this eyeshadow palette yet, but I cannot wait to try it, to be honest. And yes, guys, I absolutely think that this one is also another good one for summer, for spring, especially if you, again, if you are not into so many colors or you're like something more toned down, here you have some. And of course, you have a few pops of color over here if you want to, you know, dive into other things or experiment. Alright guys, I'm going to get this palette out of the way because this one is the most expensive eyeshadow palette that I'm going to show you in this video, and that I think it's absolutely beautiful for spring. And I am talking about the Natasha Denona Triochrome palette. This one right here is one of her full-size ones. It is still available, even though it said it is limited edition, but I think it's still on her website. I don't know. But here it is, guys. Just look at this. I think that this palette is very pretty. You get here a good mix of greens, from light greens to a more mossy green. Absolutely perfect for spring. Then you also get a good variety of purples. Again, absolutely beautiful for spring. And then here you get some peach tones. And like I said before, the combination of peachy tones with purples is just absolutely beautiful. I think that this palette is absolutely pretty for spring. And if you have it, you know that this is not a cheap palette, so you should be definitely trying to get use out of this one, especially right now that these tones are absolutely, you know, fitting to the season. Alright, let's talk about another high-end palette that I also think it's perfect for spring, and unfortunately, I don't think this one is on the market anymore. I think it's been discontinued, but if you have it, I think that spring is the perfect time to pull this one out, and I am talking about the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This palette, guys, as you can see, is just a beautiful palette with those amazing shimmers, and you get some blue tones, some purple tones, some pinks, and of course you also get some neutrals over here with your peaches and goldens. I do think that this palette is absolutely beautiful, and I don't know why Huda discontinued it, but if you have it, make sure that you give it some love before it goes bad, because there, you know, you can't get this palette anymore, and it's better to use it than not use it and just let it go bad in your drawers for no reason. Although, let's be honest, eyeshadow palettes last a really long time. Let's talk about another Colourpop eyeshadow palette, and this is one of their mega palettes, and I am talking about the It's All Good palette. This one, guys, it's absolutely pretty. Let me open this. And I think I've said this before, but whenever I look at this palette, it just reminds me of Barbie. I don't know why. Probably because of the purples and the pinks, and over here like the golds. I don't know why, I just, whenever I think of Barbie, I think of this tones. But this palette is absolutely beautiful. You get, like I said, some purple tones, some pink tones, some yellow golden tones. You also have over here some neutrals. If you don't feel like, you know, wearing a lot of color. You also get some really pale tones over here if you just want like a wash of something. And yes, guys, the only downside of this palette, I'll say, is that it has some pressed glitters, which is this Gold Star and the Michelada. But yes, guys, this palette, if you have it, I don't think that a lot of people have it, honestly. I don't think I've seen that many videos on this palette at all. But I do think it's a very beautiful palette, and it is worth pulling it out for spring. right now that we are more into maybe using more colors than we are during other seasons. Alright guys, I have 3 eyeshadow palettes left, and I have like 1 from each category. I have one indie brand left, 1 high-end, and 1 drugstore left. So let's go with the indie palette. This one is the Hela palette from Oden's Eye and Angelica Nyqvist. She released this one last year, and this is an absolutely beautiful palette. I have not used it as much as I should. I had one bad experience with it, and it was just that I did not have a bad experience with the palette. I was wearing this eyeshadow palette whenever I had just like a bad day, really bad day. So now I feel like whenever I think about this palette, it just reminds me of that day for some reason. But I definitely think I should give this palette another try and get over my, those things that I think about whenever I think about this palette, because this palette, look at it, it is absolutely beautiful. It has the most beautiful tones over here with this yellows, greens, purples, pinks. Like, this palette is so Angelica. I absolutely adore it. I love this color story. This river shade is absolutely beautiful. And also the double-sided one. Which other one did I like? I think it was the Golden Bridge, the one that I also liked. The point is, this eyeshadow palette is really, really beautiful. I think it's perfect for spring because, again, all of the colors. You get the greens, the pinks, the purples. I feel like my palettes are really, really heavy into pinks, purples, and greens, now that I think about it. But yes, guys, if you have this palette, I think that it is worth using during this time of the year. And if you need some ideas with this palette, I'm going to link a creator that she currently is doing kind of like a project paint with this eyeshadow palette. Her name is Liz, and she is from My Makeup Garden, and she posts frequently pictures using this eyeshadow palette on her Instagram page. So I'm gonna leave that in the description box down below. Make sure that you go check her out. Like I said, she has done really, really beautiful looks with this palette. Alright guys, I have 2 eyeshadow palettes left that remind me of spring, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the high-end one first and then the drugstore one for last. This high-end one that I have here is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. Whenever I look at this palette, I do think about spring. Whenever she released it, like in November, I was like, why? This is such a spring palette. You get your mint tones and your pink tones and your more like taupey tones. This is a spring palette. I think that this came out at the wrong time. So if you bought this palette and you were not using it because you were saving it for spring, hello, it's spring now. We can start using it. But anyway, guys, if you have this palette, I think, like I said, it is worth using during the spring. I think that this color story fits better with this season than it did with the season that it came out. Last eyeshadow palette that I have over here. This one is my Colourpop Baby Got Peach, and this one for sure is from their permanent collection. So I'm gonna link it in the description box down below. But this, guys, like it says, Baby Got Peach. We're talking about all peach tones over here. A very beautiful palette for those who are not into a lot of color. They like something more neutral, but they would like to maybe, just used a little bit of color. This is very good, like the Coastal Coral one, for a one shade and done type of look. And it has very beautiful shimmers over here that you can also use. It's just, I don't know, so pretty for very simple looks. Kind of like the no makeup look type of thing. It might seem a little monochromatic over here, but it does have a lot of potential if you give it a try. So, like I said, Baby Get Peach from Colourpop. Alright guys, those are all the eyeshadow palettes for spring that I have for you. Let me know in the comments down below which ones are your favorites, which ones do you own, or which ones do you think I missed that you consider are also spring palettes. Anyway guys, that's about it. And like I said, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that bell notification button so you don't miss any single one of my videos, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!